Good evening, everyone. We will be opening a public hearing on the proposed fiscal year 2025 budget. And we will start with this list that we have. First, I'll ask.
Roll call.
All right, roll call, please.
Member Castellanos?
Present.
Member Dugan?
Present.
Member Gately?
Present.
Member Pena?
Present.
Member Reed?
Present.
Member Satterwhite?
Present.
Mayor Nicholson?
Present. All right, first we'll start with anyone wishing to speak in favor of the fiscal year 2024-25 budget. Anyone wishing to speak in favor? Last call for anyone wishing to speak in favor. Next, we have against, and we'll start with the first person signed up, Sheila O'Neill. If you could just state your name and address.
Good evening, Sheila O'Neill, President of the Lynn Teachers Union, 200 Locust Street, Lynn, Mass. The Lynn Teachers Union has some grave concerns about the validity of the proposed 25 budget. In the current budget, there were, prior to this afternoon, 24 positions listed with $1 yearly salary. LPS explains these are holds, but they counted them in the number of educators that serve the district. Clearly, if the salary is not in place for these positions, then they were not planning on hiring educators for these positions. Today, I did receive notification that the ESL, 2 positions for Cobbett and Ford are now funded. SPED Resource Inclusion at Washington and Frederick Douglass are now funded. Reading teachers at Connery and Tracy and Cobbett are also now funded. And 2 speech teachers are now funded, which leaves 2 clinicians at Lynn English and Lynn Tech, 5 ELA coach teachers, curriculum department, and 8 math coach teachers, curriculum department as well, not funded. With the additional special education classrooms being added and the funding of the 9 previously unfunded positions, overall, we have a total of 8 educator positions not financed for school year 24-25. Overall, LPS is adding 1 therapist position and 16 paraprofessional positions. LPS has only 1 administrative position on hold, Assistant Director of Data and Assessment, and 1 administrative position that is not financed at all, not even with $1. The union is aware that many, if not all, of these positions have been unfilled for several years, which is called the surplus money. We would contend that the understaffing and lack of trained educators is one of the reasons for the low performance rating of our district by DESE. The substantiality of the LPS budget the sustainability of the LPS budget moving forward with contract commitments, turnaround strategies such as the community schools, and the additional classrooms being added by a 1-year grant for expanding pre-K seems precarious at best and unattainable at worst. I would remind the members of the school committee that during campaigns you all committed to eliminating administrative positions before any teacher positions. Please keep your word. Also, for clarification, Chapter 70 budget coming to the city of Lynn this year is $287,568,487. Your operating budget with the additional positions today added is $250,180,314. That leaves about $37 million, which I would guess is on the city side. I'd like to know what they're doing with that money and how much of it's really fixing our schools that we're working in, substandard conditions. I would really appreciate it if you would keep your word and maintain our schools fully staffed, because that's what the students of Lynn deserve. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Jess Moore. If you could state your name and address, please.
Hello,
My name is Jess Moore. My address is 25 Roslyn Street in Salem, Mass. I have been a speech language pathologist, or SLP, in LPS for 3 years now, and I'm here to speak on behalf of the speech language department. In 2022, the American Speech Language Hearing Association conducted a survey of speech language pathologists in school settings. Per this survey, school SLPs across the nation have a median caseload size of 48 students. Several SLPs at LPS have a caseload of around 100 students, double the national median caseload size. Speech language services need to be individualized to students' unique strengths and needs in order for students to make effective progress. How can our SLPs provide this individualization with such excessive caseloads? All the while, students are added to speech language caseloads at a rate that well exceeds the rate of discharge. We are a boat taking on water. Over the past few years, many LPS students have gone without speech language services due to understaffing. Special education administrators have shared that the search for prospective SLPs has been very difficult. I was an applicant once, and reports of caseloads around 100 students very nearly deterred me from accepting my current position. After many years of advocacy, speech language caseload caps have been established for next school year. These caps have attracted applicants and raised morale among SLPs and SLP assistants. However, the number of speech language positions allotted in the proposed budget will not allow us to meet these caps. Not even close. The proposed budget threatens morale and retention of SLPs and SLP assistants, but worse, the proposed budget condones the continued provision of inadequate supports for students with disabilities. I urge you to rethink your proposal and add more speech language positions to the budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak against? Anyone else against? Last call for against, and we will close the public hearing. Thank you so much. Is there a motion to adjourn the public hearing?
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I will now call to order a committee of the whole meeting. Roll call, please.
Member Castellanos?
Present.
Member Dugan?
Present.
Member Gately?
Present.
Member Pena?
Present.
Member Reed?
Present.
Member Satterwhite? Present. Mayor Nicholson?
Present. We will now proceed to the presentation of certificates for the Loebner Awards.
Jacket. Oh, there you go. Nice to see you again. Nice to see you. How's everything? Yes. Huh? Oh, yeah. That was, stream. How do you do? Rerun tomorrow.
Yeah, I know.
You may want to move the tape. Yeah, that'll give them the microphone as well.
Want to get on my seat. My seat. Go to the oldest.
Do whatever you want. Not enough for everybody.
Anybody want to sit in my seat?
Kelly.
Oh, that's it.
I think we have more. Wait, I think that gentleman's saying let's wait a second.
Is this is he a award winner?
Bill, you know it's not being broadcast.
You can start. You can start, Joe. Yeah, you can start.
Okay. All right. Hello, my name is John Logner. The award is not made for me. It was for my brother George. His name was, he was deputy superintendent, but he started out as a teacher. He was also in the principal, and he was a deputy. And he taught for 30-plus years. I taught for 30-plus years in the Lynn School, by the way. But he became superintendent, and that's why this award is named the Logner Award. And I'm very proud of it because George was very dedicated to children, and he loved to have a good writing going on. He'd come into I taught while he was still superintendent. He'd come into my room, and I bet you had the same experience. He'd walk out of the room and he'd call me in and he'd say, "Your papers on the wall are 1 month overdue. Take them all down." Because he wanted all new papers for the children every month. So he was very particular about things like that, and he loved, I feel like I'm boring.
It's okay.
He loved to see children and see them happy. So that's why tonight is such a great night for me. And I'm sorry if you can't get in, but I don't see why they can't get in. Stand right back here. Walk all the way around and stand back here.
Come on, you can come in back here.
You can come in. You have a child, walk right around. Anyone with a little kid.
Amina. Bye-bye.
All right, so I stopped for a moment, but let's continue. So this award is in his name, and I'm very proud of that fact. But it's also nice to see so many children getting recognition. And so that's what this really is about. I'm going to call your name. You come up. Where are the mayor? Yeah, take the certificates out, and we'll see you. How about the first one? Now, if I mispronounce, you correct me, okay?
Before you start, can I just say on behalf of the Lynn Business Education Foundation, we want to congratulate the students, their parents, their teachers. You have done a fabulous job. Be proud of yourself. Tonight is your night.
Okay, there you go. All right, the first one from Avon. Dania Dear Robert.
Dania Deaver Brothers.
Dania Dear. Come up here. Muhammad Allah.
There you go.
Yella Landry. This is Callahan. Callahan.
Yeah.
No? All right. How about Hobbit? Nayeli Lopez Lopez. From the Connery School, Romney Herrera Ruiz. Druids, Dalen Aguillon Ramirez. I hope I got that name right. Congratulations. From the Fallon School, Isabella Johnson. Ford, Dana Sati.
Good job dressing the occasion.
All right, Heritage, Jamal Perez Sarmiento. I hope I got that. Good. Let's see you right up, all and down. All right. Ingalls. Another? Come on. Najima, done. Done. All right, Lynn Woods. Can you explain what that was? Oh, I should explain what the little things are about. Sure, would you like to?
He probably doesn't know.
I do.
$50 gift card to Barnes and Noble, so I'll go shopping and then.
Walk off without. We leave off with Lynn Woods.
You're doing Linwood.
Lynn Woods. Marine Miller.
Marin.
School ends. All right. I believe Shoemaker, Bella Hill.
Ọ̀rẹ́ Adékọ̀yà.
All right. Tracy, Carlos Chevalier, cheer. Wow, that's Washington Elementary School, Tracy Southern. Are you taking it? Adriana Sidney.
She can't make it.
All right. Marshall Rose Bonhomme. Los Santos Acevedo. I'm right next to you. Yeah. LVTI Discovery, Brian Veloso Gonzalez. So that's the end of it. Well, congratulations.
Table.
Hey, Deb. Hey, Deb.
Hi, how are you? Good, nice to see you.
I love your hair.
Oh, thanks. How's everything? Good. What's going on?
I'm sorry?
I think I know you. How's it going, Mr. Greenlee? How's everything?
All right. Well, congratulations again to all the award recipients. Thank you to the Lobner Award team, the Lynn Business Ed Foundation, for the wonderful recognition and presentation we enjoy celebrating every year, and really appreciate that. We will now move into the open mic session. Okay. Move to adjourn?
Motion to
Second.
adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Is designed to provide an opportunity for citizens to express their views on matters of concern to the school committee. The sessions are not designed to encourage debate or lengthy exchange of views, but are to have the committee understand numerous points of view. The committee would appreciate speakers keeping the presentation to 3 minutes in order to accommodate as many people as time permits. The chair reserves the right to limit the number of speakers on the same topic to 3. All speakers must be at least 18 years of age or enrolled in high school in the Lynn Public Schools District and having discussed their views with a student government representative. The chair reserves the right to rule the speaker out of order if they feel that the speaker's comments are personal in nature. If a speaker's comments are directed at a school committee member or a member of school administration in attendance, that member, through the chair, may address the individual. And we will begin with Esteban Cuberes Ramirez. If you could please state your name and address, please, when you begin.
Hello. All right. I've been asked here to come. I've been asked to come here and talk about my experience as an immigrant and with school, how I've dealt with it. So I came here 8 years ago. I didn't know English, but I did know I wanted to excel academically. My parents have done a lot to bring me here, and I didn't want to let their efforts go to waste. I remember walking to the classroom for my first day and being given a lot of work that I didn't understand. I realized that I was behind academically, like I hadn't learned a lot of the stuff that we're reviewing. But I was also, I just didn't know the language, so two barriers I had to overcome. Luckily, I had ELA teachers that really cared for me and made sure that I learned everything I needed to. And after 2 years, I was done with ELA classes, and I was able to just, do normal classes and kind of deal with high school like a normal student. However, I still had issues inside. Like, I felt insecure talking. I felt insecure about my accent, talking in class, stuff like that. So oftentimes I just wouldn't do much, I just wouldn't interact much with my classroom. And I think that also made me feel a bit like I didn't belong, or that this wasn't my community yet. This was the case all the way until 10th grade when I joined Skills USA. By this point, again, I knew the language and I was excelling academically, but I just didn't quite feel like I belonged here. In Skills USA, I was able to kind of overcome this second obstacle that being an immigrant presents, the internal obstacle of fear, insecurities, and all these other things. I was put in the spotlight many times, and I was allowed to meet my community and help my community. All in all, my teachers and peers and my advisors helped me get through all the difficulty that the second obstacle of being an immigrant was. And now I can stand here and talk to all of you and share my story with you. So looking back, I'd say that two things were vital to my growth. One was the ELA classes. If I hadn't had them, I probably would have maybe gotten frustrated and called quits. I've seen it happen a lot of times too. I've had cousins and stuff like that who come here and maybe they don't get exactly what they need, and it's just difficult for them to catch up with their classmates, and they kind of just give up. But secondly, my teachers, the school staff, and my friends all helped me grow emotionally, mentally, and all these other things. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing. Anyone for open mic? Yep, please state your name and address, please.
My name is Denisa Lopez, and I'm at 270 Chatham Street. So good evening. During the last meeting, a resident expressed concern about the quality of a special education program. I'd like to underscore her comments regarding family involvement. Too often, families do not know the law, and schools, due to many factors, simply do not have the capacity to properly explain to families the complex IEP or 504 process. Therefore, many families do not know what their child is entitled to, and unfortunately, many students are passed along from grade to grade without appropriate support. It is now common knowledge that Lynn Public Schools are underperforming. It is a very disturbing trend. As the Lynn becomes more diverse, unfortunately, MCAS scores are decreasing. It makes me very sad. And I thank Cindy Gifford for raising her voice because it has inspired me to use mine. All families want the best for their children, and if Lynn Public School families knew what other families with generational wealth know, then they too would be helping to support their children's education. For this reason, I'm very excited that the Rosetta Stone is being offered and that the middle school will be receiving a new curriculum. As planning moves forward, schools must keep in mind students with autism and dyslexia when planning the delivery of instruction. Most recent data show that 1 in 3 children has autism and 1 in 5 children has dyslexia. The difference between Tier 1, Tier 2, and 3 is not necessarily the program used, as all students benefit from strong core instruction, but the scaffolds provided to meet the standards. For too long, these populations have been underserved in public schools across the nation, but we have the capacity to work alongside families to raise awareness and provide them with the knowledge, tools, and encouragement that their students need to excel. When students reach their full potential, so does the city of Lynn. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Vanessa.
Thank you. Anyone else for open mic? Anyone else for open mic? Last call for open mic. And that will close the open mic portion of the evening, and we will move into the 11th regular meeting of the school committee. Roll call, please.
Member Castellanos?
Present.
Member Dugan?
Present.
Member Gately?
Present.
Member Pena?
Present.
Member Reed?
Present.
Member Satterwhite?
Present.
Mayor Nicholson?
Present. For those who are able, please rise for a salute to the flag, followed by a moment of silence.
The United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for a moment of silence in memory of Thomas Peterson, retired psychologist, passed June 2nd, 2024. Thank you. Next item is the minutes.
A motion to accept the 10th regular meeting on May 30th, 2024.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Appointments.
Good evening, everyone. We're very excited to have Dr. Mary Kinahan as the new principal at Lincoln Thompson Elementary School. Please let us honor you. You're moving from the what was the Virginia Barton early childhood, and so now moving into the elementary school. Congratulations to you. The next appointment is Andrea Taddeo, interim principal of Druids Elementary School. Congratulations. Mr. Robert Bishop, executive director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. And for the committee school nurse, we have 2 of them this evening. Nancy Peacock. What is the will of the committee?
Motion to elect Nancy Peacock as a BSN for our school.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Member Castellanos?
Nancy Peacock.
Member Dugan?
Nancy Peacock.
Member Gately?
Nancy Peacock.
Member Pena?
Nancy Peacock.
Member Reed?
Nancy Peacock.
Member Satterwhite?
Nancy Peacock.
Mayor Nicholson?
Nancy Peacock.
Thank you. The second nurse is Danielle Lorino. What is the will of the committee?
Motion to accept the election of Danielle Lorino for BSN.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Member Castellanos?
Yeah, Danielle Lorino.
Member Dugan?
Danielle Lorino.
Member Gately?
Danielle Lorino.
Member Pena?
Danielle Lorino.
Member Reed?
Danielle Lorino.
Member Satterwhite?
Danielle Lorino.
Mayor Nicholson?
Danielle Lorino. Next is presentations.
And this evening, Bobby Bishop will be doing a DEI year in review, and we have some of our students here. We're really excited to hear about your inclusivity projects and some of your findings and recommendations to the school committee. So welcome to all the students who are joining us this evening.
Good evening, how we doing? So, I'm Robert Bishop. I'm proud to say I'm the Executive Director of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion for Lynn Public Schools, and I'm really excited to be here tonight to give you a year-end review. Fittingly, we're going to start with the students. So to begin, I would like to invite, we're going to start with the Hood Inclusivity Panel. If we can invite the Hood students to come up here, please. Is Hood present? Come on up, guys. Hood Hawks. Hood Hawks, yeah. I have this here for you if you'd rather read it off the paper, okay?
Hi, my name is Dami. I'm from Hood Elementary School. We are inclusivity panel at Hood Elementary School. Our research question led us to initiate the start of a lending program at our school. Our why directed us to the main reason why we spent unproductive time on our phones. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Max, and our different committees came up with solutions. The lending program will provide students with different activities at home. The activities range from board games, educational apps, and sports equipment. The survey provided to all 5th grade students helped us determine the activities that most interest our classmates.
Our next steps are to contact different leaders and raise money to purchase materials. We're continuing to use resources like booklets for incoming 5th graders, lending cart, and continuing to provide these resources to lower grades. We are hopeful that this will help students across all grades having access to educational apps such as Rosetta Stone or Duolingo will help promote more inclusive schools. It will better help students' communication with one another. Thank you. From Inclusivity Panel.
Thank you to Ms. Peralta and Ms. Santana. Incredible leaders. Next we have Tracy School. Tracy, come on up. Hi, guys.
Hi, my name is Aurora, and I'm a 5th grader at Tracy School.
Hi, my name is Brianna, and I am a 5th grader at Tracy School.
We came tonight to share our Inclusivity Panel project with you. In the fall, as a team of 20 4th and 5th grade leaders, we came up with some problems at Tracy that we would like to solve. One of the problems that we all wanted to solve was the noise in the lunchroom. It is really loud. We used the 5 Whys protocol and determined the root cause could be the boredom.
We created surveys to get more information from the other students at Tracy to see if they agree with us. We asked, how do you usually feel when you are at lunch? 108 students said they are not happy at lunch. That is 33% of the students who took our survey.
We also asked the students, how do you feel about the noise level in the cafeteria during your lunch? 132 students said it bothers them. That is 53% of the students who took our survey.
Our survey also asked, what would you enjoy doing after you have finished eating? The top choice was coloring or drawing. This is a problem we can solve.
We have started collecting coloring supplies.
Our donation box is full. Next year, we plan to start the year with boxes of coloring and drawing materials that students can use to prevent boredom in the lunchroom.
We hope you enjoyed our presentation.
LVTI, Lynn Tech, come on up.
My name is Udali Dariniz, and I'm a 9th grader at Lynn Tech. Our goals for Inclusivity Club have been to educate student body about available clinical support, build an inclusive and welcome environment, share the pathway to access help, utilize our media as resource, develop a strong sense of belonging.
Hi. Hi, I'm Laboni. This is our execution and results. Our survey questions proved to be too clinical in nature this year and therefore deemed inappropriate for non-clinical use during the school year. As a result, we decided to collaborate with clinical staff at LVTI to create a survey that maintains the goals of Diversity and Inclusivity Club and the school clinician staff. Our plan for the following year is to continue to build communication with administration and clinicians at LVTI in order to plan and create a new survey in the fall of 2024. We want to investigate the degree of student mental health, safety, and concerns at Tech. We want to work with school to create a survey model that provides a clinically based support system while students are taking the survey, targeted with appropriate questions for students, the ability to generate data that allows students to connect with survey participants regarding their answer. We want to ensure that all students have a live-streamed way to connect with clinicians and staff about their concerns and questions. After everything, we decided that it's important to find a way to ask hard questions safely in a way that is allowed.
Thank you for listening.
Before we continue, I want to say I'm particularly proud of the LVTI team. Assessing their situation and realizing that it required more research and that their project needed some revamping was very mature on their part. They took a step back, they listened to consultation, and they pivoted. And it was actually very humbling to watch it all transpire. So they're going to continue the research next year, and we're going to see where the project goes. So thank you.
Hello, my name is Josue Aguilar from Reed. I am a 6th grader, and this is the presentation that we made. I'd like to invite Lisa Jensreisig, Melody Gaska, and the Breed team. I can speak. Oh. So, in December, we asked you to do a survey about slurs, which are words that can be derisive or negative. This is what we found.
Survey slurs and name calling language. We are wondering about the of slurs, name calling, and the use of other language here at Breed. Please complete this anonymous survey to help us gather data about language at Breed. Before you begin, you should know that for the purpose of this survey, the word slur means name calling based on a person's religion, background, base, body type, background, gender, affect, sexuality, mental health, physicality, and other unique
attributes. Got it. Good job.
one of our sixth questions was, how do you think other people feel when called a slur? Our top one was, let's see, they didn't care about being called, with a score of 419 students. And the eighth numbered question was, what are there times or places where these kinds of words are okay? 275 people voted yes, and 597 voted no. Over two out of three of people we asked said slurs were not okay at any time in any place. So why are we hearing them here at school where acceptance is so important? Want to go next? All right. So think before you speak. Don't say something because someone else said it first. Don't say it because you think it's a joke. Even when you're saying it in an inclusive way, it doesn't include everybody, meaning that all the other kids around you, teachers, hall monitors, and administrators, maybe find some less controversial words.
Good job. I'd like to welcome Lynn English.
Go.
Hi, my name is Mohammed Jahan, or Mohammed. I'm from Lynn English High School. I'm on the executive panel. So this year we have committed to incorporating months of our heritage onto our bulletin board and providing resources and information for faculty and students to look into, because everyone should feel included and involved. We did Hispanic Heritage Month and Women's History Month. We also did a couple other months as well. And that was for our bulletin board. And then for our announcements, we also made sure to represent different like heritages and different cultures as well. And then this was our hygiene project, which was one of our other focuses that we started off last school year. It was to supply the girls' bathroom. Our original idea was to supply the girls' bathroom with pads, tampons, and deodorant every month so that it was more convenient to use the restroom. Still with like the little amount of time that we had, because I'm a current sophomore, our team was very small last year, so it was hard to plan it together, but we ended up with our products from our good friend, Hope and Comfort, which is an organization that our former co-advisor had recommended to us. And the mission that they have was to provide sustained hygiene products for adults in Massachusetts during the pandemic, and that's how we had our connection with Hope and Comfort. So we reached out to them, and we were able to have access and gain access to body soap, toothbrushes, shampoo, deodorant, and other necessities. We were also able to find out that it can be we also surveyed our students and faculty about our recent giveaways, because last year was our first year that we did it, and then this year was our second year, and we were able to do it a little more efficiently and effectively. Our plans changed as well, because at the beginning of the year we started off distributing the products at the very front of the building at the end of the day, and it was like on Fridays usually, but then our schedule for last school year, we had the half-day schedule on Wednesdays, and because of that, we were able to distribute our products right during 12:30 at our lunch periods, and that was very convenient for us, and students also enjoyed our product giveaways as well. And another thing that we had done as well was that we split our distribution between regular hygiene products, so more inclusive, and then other hygiene products that were related to menstruation products. And we split them up by putting them into different bags. We also had build your own bag, which was how we set up multiple different products all together, and students were able to take their own products and make their own bags.
Before I continue, and I'm gonna keep my year in review condensed. I want to make sure and just offer an opportunity if there are any questions about any of the projects that were presented tonight. From the committee, our students are still here and be happy to answer your questions.
Member Gailey.
I just want to say that I attended the yearly inclusivity project
the
summit over there at Breed, and I was really, really impressed with the elementary levels of all of their studies. I remember having to go back and grab a couple of copies. I think it was from Druitt's. We didn't see that, but it was like a very interesting thing, and I shared it with people on how to keep people busy in the classroom, like taking a quick 5-second activity to help them to be able to sustain their attentiveness. But to the high schools and to all the products that they brought into Lynn English High School, it's so impressive, and just wanted to thank you all for doing that job. It's huge. It means a lot to our students, a lot to our staff that you're speaking up. Thank you.
Do again, Member Pena.
All right, well, thank you, everybody. What comes to mind when I hear these things like that, or hear these presentations, is that, and I'm speaking to the students, because you guys probably hear adults talk a lot about our MCAS scores, but you guys are so much more than that, and you proved that tonight, and I'm just really proud of you. I'm really proud of you. You guys did a great job, and Mr. Bishop, thank you for everything you did. It was great, really good. Thank you.
Absolutely. I do want to give special thanks to our lead team and our school mentors. Leading an inclusivity team requires a different level of dedication as far as time and passion, and their dedication is humbling. I'm grateful for their partnership. They taught me a lot this year. Their commitment to equity in our schools is unmatched, and I just want to appreciate them tonight. Thank you to our leaders.
Thank you.
Member Pena.
Be respectful.
Yeah. Member Pena, yeah.
I just kind of want to echo my colleague Eric Dugan, and I just want to thank Bob Bishop, the teams, the leadership in the schools, and the students. I admire your courage. I admire your initiative on taking leadership and doing these surveys. It's not easy. It takes a lot of courage, and especially coming up in here in front of a lot of adults, and it takes a lot of courage. And I admire you and I applaud you, and I'm very, very, very proud of you. I know how it feels to be speaking in front of people. You're nervous, but I admire your courage and taking that initiative of leadership. Your future's bright. Thank you.
Member Castellanos.
Where do I start? The product, the work that this department has done over the years has evolved. It's been very inspiring to witness the leadership, the collaboration, and especially the student commitment. I think the commitment piece is always something that just inspires me, and to see this, us elevate student voices. I think as an elected official, it's my duty and obligation to ensure that we activate youth and student voice in decision making. And I think whenever we include students in the process of government, I think the product is very, very authentic. And it's crucial that we hear from students and we continue to see these projects develop and expand. And I really appreciate the way you guys are problem solving these really key issues, because it's data driven. You look at the root cause analysis, you're looking for solutions, and everyone has important perspectives, no matter even if you're in kindergarten, first grade, third grade, college, 80. Everyone's perspective is so important to hear from. Very important work that's being done, and Mr. Bishop, congratulations on your appointment. This work is very important. It's critical, and most importantly, it's going to be a future-driven piece of. For me, you're gonna see the change. You're gonna see the impact, and I look forward to continuing to collaborate with students and with this department too, as well as it grows, and keep up the great work. So, and for the student from Breed, to sit there and finish the job, I don't know if people witnessed that, but where is she? What's her name? The young lady from Breed? It's right here. Can we give her a round of applause? I'm gonna tell you right now, that's not easy. Talking in front of people and strangers, like, it's very vulnerable, and to step up to the plate and continue and finish that inspired me. Perspective. It's so important to find understanding, and you can learn it from anybody. So thank you, young lady, for that.
I'm going to give you a brief review of everything that has transpired, and thank you everybody for being patient with the process. We want to make sure the students were at the forefront tonight, and I do appreciate your patience. They were amazing. So it's been a year. I was placed into this role, had the privilege of starting this department a year ago with Dr. Alvarez, and a lot has transpired. I'm not going to read every word, but I'm going to summarize each slide. You have the full slide deck in front of you, though. So we started doing this work by using data. So we use the SBIRT surveys, and in addition to that, there's the DEI, SEL, and DAT departments initiate a school climate survey pilot. So this transpired in the late fall, and in addition to that, we had some really remarkable a set of data from the inclusivity team, the YPAR work that took place last school year with the Breed team. So I had these three really important pieces of data to start hinging everything off of, as far as decision making, as far as direction that we needed to go with the department, and that's where we started. Realized that it was going to be important to get some grant money going, so there was also some exploration of some grants, and I'm happy to say that 2 grants were awarded this year, the Promoting Safe and Healthy Families grant and the Round 2 Hate Crimes Prevention grant, and that was just an exciting victory and a good place to start as far as getting creative with what we wanted to do. This is just an image of everything that we've been piecing together incrementally as far as what this department might look like. So it's a categorization of the work. The blue circles represent shared spaces, programming, partnerships, professional development, and professional learning communities, also collaborations with each department and working closely with the Office of Compliance. Shout out Charlie Gallo. He's been an amazing teacher this year. Don't try to figure this one out. But what I started doing was realizing that it's a representation of this work, in that in order for inclusion to transpire, in order for an equitable process to transpire where we're placing belongingness at the forefront, everything has to work together. And if there's a need over here, hold on, there's a possibility over here that there's a resource. So we just started connecting it all. And as I started connecting, I thought I'd be connecting a few, and I just kept going. I said, oh wait, they helped me here, they helped them, they helped them, they helped them, and it just started all working together, which was pretty remarkable. These are the goals we set in the fall when I presented to you. And as I go through the rest of the presentation, you'll have this in the corner of each slide, so you can see where each goal links with an initiative or a partnership. Had a lot of cross-departmental collaboration. Like I said, the Office of Compliance has taught me quite a bit, and I've had the privilege of being on quite a few policy and procedure committees regarding school discipline, protective sweeps, dress code, et cetera. And Attorney Gallo and his team are a model of equity work, is one of the first things that I learned. So there is actually already a department that is setting a standard for what equitable practice looks like, and that department has taught me quite a bit this year. It has been a privilege to be working with them. Additionally, I worked with every other department. So the social emotional learning department is the one that I came out of, SEL, and Ms. Hofnagel has brought me under her wing, and we have collaborated quite a bit. Curriculum and instruction, data assessment and accountability, multilingual education, special education, innovation, and grants management. I've been privileged enough to have a hand in every single thing because people have invited me in. and said, hey, let's have a DEI lens at the table. We like to see what your perspective is here. And they also understood I needed to learn what they do, how their department works. And their understanding of the fact that this was a learning process for me and inviting me to those tables and putting me on those subcommittees was a huge part of my learning this year. With the communications department, there were a lot of things transpiring as far as social media. So for this year, there was a lot of event promotions, LPS promotions for events, and also things transpiring in the city of Lynn. And in addition to that, we wanted to make sure that there were faith-based and cultural celebrations that were being recognized. National Day to Combat Islamophobia, we made sure we recognized. Black History Month, we did a series. And AAPI Heritage Month, we did a recognition and also made sure that we promoted a big event that transpires every year that I'll get to in a moment. So these are some of the things that transpired with the communications department to ensure that every week there was something that was being posted from my department. Regarding professional development and mentoring, there's a long list of things that I got to participate in this year. The Association of Massachusetts School Equity Leaders was really a big advocate and a great learning community for me. Mass Ready, Racial Equity, Diversity and Inclusion, Equity in Action series, 6 members from the executive leadership team participated in that series over the course of the year. And that was a big learning opportunity for the team and also an opportunity to bond as a team and learn what it really looks like to, as a team, set an example of what inclusion, what equity looks like for a district. Teacher diversification and professional learning community through DESE. And the Department of Justice Uniting Hate Forum was something I participated in. One of the biggest things, though, really monumental things for me personally, is that I was personally mentored by Dr. Lee Title. Dr. Alvarez has worked with Dr. Title in the past and had that pre-existing relationship and said, I know the person I think needs to mentor you. You have his biography here in front of you, as well as the biography of Dr. Monte Jackson. So Dr. Title has been coaching me one-on-one throughout the course of the school year and really showing me what the difference is as far as technical leadership versus adaptive leadership. And as it pertains to DEI, there are problems that you don't flip a switch. Most of them you don't, particularly when it comes down to incidents transpiring between students, between staff and students, whatever it may be. He's been instrumental in showing me, hey, this is how you pivot from being a clinician, being in the SEL department working one-on-one, to how you adaptively work on helping solve problems for the betterment of a district. And that's been remarkable. And Dr. Monte Jackson is also working with us. So they are doing joint executive coaching with Dr. Alvarez and myself now, and the DEI superintendent relationship is one that's very important, and this is what they do. This is what they specialize in, so they're coaching us presently. And already there are challenges that are emerging as far as their encouragement and also recognition of the fact that there are going to be bumps in the road here, and we have to have that relationship that is going to be able to withstand that, because this is dangerous work, and they're helping prepare us for that. Very excited about that. Dr. Monte Jackson is also working with our affinity space, with our affinity groups for staff and for administrators, and helping re-envision what that looks like and what the contributions are going forward. She also does this for a living and is an expert in that particular space. I'm very excited to see where that goes as well. And I've learned quite a bit about that as well through her. Like we already went over the inclusivity program. We have 7 secondary schools, 3 elementary schools. The part I wanted to highlight, and you already saw some amazing students here, but I was doing the math. I had the numbers from the beginning of the year, and then I ran them again in April, and attendance grew 40% this year as far as participation in inclusivity, which I thought was really remarkable. And that had everything to do, first of all, with our students, and they're clearly telling their friends, hey, come be a part of something that has purpose, that's purpose-driven. But additionally, our leaders are committed, and they show up for their kids. week in and week out. And because of that, I think word has gotten out like, hey, there's actually a place of belonging in our buildings, and we need to go find out what that is. So I really, again, want to recognize our leaders and as well as our lead team, because they've set the precedent for this. I can't take credit for the inclusivity program. It was pre-existing. I participated historically as a leader, but their leadership and how they made sure that they preserved this program was an incredible thing to watch this year. And I'm just very, very proud to have been a part of it. We had some highlights from the inclusivity program, including the summit. The summit was packed out. And I was a little nervous. The sound system went out at Breed. I had to run. I don't know if people saw me sprinting. Those of you who came, I sprinted out to the CAF, and thank the Lord we had an extra portable sound system. Had a few little hiccups, and everybody pivoted, and everybody made it happen. And the kids did an incredible job with their videos. And I was just really proud. I was really proud to see them perform. They did a great job. As far as initiatives and partnerships, we established some safe spaces, some shared spaces this year. The superintendent's student cabinet was Dr. Alvarez, and I had a conversation in the fall, and she said, hey, one of the first things that I would like to establish here is a student cabinet. We need to have student voice. We need to have shared space at this table. If we're scrutinizing all these policies, all these procedures, and we're all sitting at a table as leaders thinking that we know exactly what these students need, and we're not asking the students what they need, then we're missing something. So we need a cabinet. So it was a process of nomination and of application, and a cabinet was assembled. Every high school was present on the cabinet, and we have a vision for expansion of that as far as what do other cabinets look like, what do other shared spaces look like that are student-centered. This was a place to start. I don't like to call it a pilot because it was pretty great. It was very successful. And the students, and the reason I'm saying that is because the students reacted. They didn't just come, and the bus ride was a trip because we're driving all around the city, scrambling, trying to make sure we got every kid on the bus to the cabinet meeting. It was great, and they got to know each other. But as we're doing that, it wasn't just them showing up for that, to have lunch and to have a conversation with the superintendent when we needed them. Because there's a policy, there's a procedure, there's something that's being developed. We called and we said, hey, emergency cabinet meeting. Everybody get on Zoom at this day and this time, please. And they showed up and they gave us their input, and then we were able to bring their input back to the committees and the subcommittees and said, hey, this is what the students say. And they effectively changed a lot of the directions that we were going because they said, we didn't think of that, but they know. And it was serving its purpose, and it was exciting, and I'm looking forward to what other spaces are going to be developed in the future. That was a great idea and a big win. So here's some pictures from Centering Youth Voices. I do want to also highlight our Staff of Color Affinity group. They agreed, speaking of all of the different lines, the intersections and connections, right? The Staff of Color Affinity group, two of their members, their leaders, Mr. Press and Mr. Bursey, volunteered to mentor the student cabinet. So when we were meeting in our Zoom calls, Mr. Press and Mr. Bursey were joining us, and they were helping run the meeting. And when there was communication that needed to transpire in between meetings, they were communicating with the students and following up on what was happening, what their input was, and what needed to happen next as far as our next conversation with the superintendent. And it was just really great to see those relationships develop throughout the course of the year. As far as I'm going to go through these quickly, some more initiatives and partnerships. I had 6 consultants at Classical because I know a lot of kids at Lynn Classical. And I said, hey, I have some kids over here that I actually need to make sure I'm sitting down with. Some of them were pre-established relationships, but then they told their friends, and before I knew it, I had 6. And every time I was developing something or there was a new idea or Dr. Alvarez said, hey, I'd like you to explore this, monthly I was sitting down with the consultancy group and saying, what do you think of this? Or I did this, what do you think of this? And they were just giving me their feedback throughout the course of the year as we kept going, particularly regarding, there were a few things that I wanted to make sure that imagery, that messaging, when it came down to social media posts were correct. And I had students who, that's their culture, that's their, particularly when it came down to students of the Muslim faith, they were incredible consultants for me to make sure that we were honoring them in our messaging. And I was just really grateful that I had them. So what is coming out of that is we are going to have a Muslim Student Association district-wide next year, and it's starting with that. And then they're telling me, hey, there's another group over here at Lynn English. Let's link everybody together next year. So through those conversations, they were helping me, but also they were coming up with new ideas of what we need to do next, which was fantastic. There's some more work that's happening with Best Buddies. I established a relationship with the Best Buddies organization because we have several chapters here in Lynn. But again, we're thinking forward on how to be very deliberate with those and how more students can be involved. So we promoted to the Future Teachers program, and some of our future teachers in Lynn Public Schools joined the Best Buddies program. And there's more work to be done with that to ensure that we're really exploring what other students can be involved in this rather than just kind of subjective ideas and referrals. Great students who might want to go and mentor, but let's be deliberate about students who might have a future in education as well. So we're going to keep working on that next year. The superintendent's teacher cabinets also transpired, and these began in January. 22 early childhood and elementary teachers and 22 middle school and high school teachers. The teachers union was excellent about their communication with us regarding, and the teachers as well, were very good about ensuring that they identified what we may have been missing regarding who needed to be on that cabinet, and identified some spaces, and so we ensured that we expanded that so that general ed, multilingual, and special education were all present on that cabinet, and we have some more ideas about how to further expand that cabinet regarding representation next year. Like I already talked about the staff of color affinity groups, there's the partnership with Dr. Donisa Monte-Jackson surrounding mentorship and enrichment is transpiring. We just had a meeting this past week and it went very well. And I'm looking forward to the future of that partnership and working with the affinity groups. For staff diversification and support, there were projects that were worked on this year through the Mass Partnership for Diversity in Education membership. A team of us were participating in a project regarding teacher diversification. And additionally, we have a partnership with Latinos for Education, and there are several fellowships. The Aspiring Latino Leaders Fellowship and Latinx Teachers Fellowship are fellowships that LPS has partnered with Latinos for Education on, and we have a lot of teachers and staff members who are participating in that fellowship next year. Gender and Sexuality Alliance was wonderful. We had a big gathering March 26th, and that was over. Marshall hosted that, which we really appreciated. Marshall Breed, Frederick Douglass, Classical, and Tech all joined us, and the kids started talking about what we could do for a hate crimes prevention campaign, which was great because incidentally, we got a grant for that, right? So we started getting the kids' wheels turning at that event on what would that look like. So the kids started giving their ideas. They actually started making artwork that very day. We brought a lot of things. And as far as imagery, we said, hey, what would you guys like to do together as a group? And everybody agreed that we should go and represent in the Pride Parade and Festival on June 22nd. So Lynn Public Schools is going to be at that festival. We have a spot in the parade, and that's going to be great. So a lot of students are going to be coming to join us for that. And like I said, the students had some great ideas, and that grant was given from DESE regarding the hate crimes prevention. So right now, the No Place for Hate campaign is happening. The kids have been pretty incredible regarding what they want that to look like as well. And we have a number of schools who have all voluntarily, this is one of those things where we kind of had to feel out who wants to participate. So English Classical, Tech, Frederick Douglass, Spector, Leary Breed, Marshall, and Sisson are all participating. Sisson was a last minute addition. They called me up and said, hey, we have some students here who have some ideas. So went over and I said, give me your ideas, and said, okay, you guys are doing it too. The grant allows us to buy a lot of materials for the students that were all just delivered this past week. So they have trifold boards. They're going to be making buttons. We ordered T-shirts. And in the fall, each of those schools is going to do a hate crime prevention afternoon where they'll get to set up. Each of them are making a solidarity statement. They're working together to get their messaging and their imagery together. And they're going to be set up as the students exit the buildings so that they can give away their things and just make a little bit of noise about this is what we stand for here. And again, the assistant kids in particular touched my heart with that when they were so excited about it. And on the right there, that's going to be the T-shirt where it says respect, and everybody will get one. There were a lot of community events. I realize how important that is to make sure I go and I show up. And these are just some examples of some things. I got to go to the Boys and Girls Club and do a community chat, a career chat with some of the students over there in their after-school program. And I just attended a lot of things. These are just a few examples. The city of Lynn has a lot of remarkable events. And I've realized how important it is to ensure that there's cross-collaboration, that there's communication. And Ms. Cuevas has been great about communicating with me on that. So we've just been sharing our stuff with one another to make sure that we're setting an example for the city. Like, this is how this is done. These are just a few examples. I also made sure I just showed up at the school events, right? So it's important to be there. It's important to support. It's important to let the students know who you are and let them know that they're important. The Asian American Club celebration was remarkable. This year, English and Classical got together on this one, and it was enormous. It's so much fun, and I feel like this club historically and presently has set such an amazing example for what inclusivity looks like, for what belongingness looks like. Asian American students in these two clubs make sure that they are not the only representation in those clubs. Everybody goes to that club and learns about what it is regarding all the details of Asian American culture that those students want to share. And it's just this celebratory environment, and then they have this pinnacle event every year, and it was really remarkable. So moving forward, we set the groundwork. This year was about infrastructure, as you can see, as far as data grants, collaboration, professional development, mentoring, initiatives, partnerships, and events. And moving forward is really, now that we have some groundwork, now that we have a foundation, moving forward is continuation of initiatives regarding culture. Further data collection is going to transpire, so to lead the work, and fostering the relationships with leaders and teachers is really going to be what the next focus is. I remember in my initial interview over a year ago, one of the key points of the conversation was that each building is unique and that an inside-out approach needs to take place. And that was the intention right away. And what I learned very quickly is you have to build trust first. So this has been a year of trying to build some trust so that next year there will be more opportunity for new challenges, for faculty presentations, and for student presentations and support. I just want to thank everybody. I'm fortunate to be in this position. The list is lengthy as far as who I could thank here and should thank. I do want to thank, like I said, the compliance department, my fellow executive directors, Deputy Goris, just for kindness and patience. I want to thank Ms. Ruggiero and Ms. Powers. You believed in me from the day I came to LPS. Ms. Powers held my file until I got all my licensure in order, and then when I did, she hired me. And it was 9 months of, there's a file on the desk, and then it's just amazing to be in this place now, so thank you for that. And I want to thank Tina Hoofnagel for her nurture and her mentoring. And I want to thank Dr. Alvarez for teaching me and warmly demanding excellence and believing in me. So, thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions.
If I could just add one thing, I think Esteban had to leave, perhaps. But Esteban, we're talking about a culture of belongingness, and I thought it was important that everyone here, school committee members, as well as those of you joining us this evening, that you hear his experience, because he shared it openly as the valedictorian of Lynn Tech. Yeah. And his speech greatly impacted me personally and as a professional in terms of what he shared. And I know that he started at LPS way before inclusivity panels were around, and lots of things have changed. But his experience, I just wanted to acknowledge. I know he's gone, but we'll connect with him. He's very humble. He's an incredible human being. His principal, Mr. Gallo, is here and thinks exceptionally highly of him. And what he didn't say this evening is that he was accepted on a full ride to MIT. Wanted to name that because when we talk about belonging and we talk about our students and the immigrant experience and the lack of language learning and acquisition initially, what that feels like, you heard what he said. And, you know, he is, right, the portrait of a graduate at LPS. He gives us hope that anything is possible. But that we have to put the right accommodations in place and provide students with the right supports in order to learn language.
Yeah.
Questions? Yeah, Member Castellanos.
Mr. Bishop, thank you for your presentation. I always appreciate your work and all the extra details you provide to us, because it's always amazing to see the amount. Your growth is different. I've noticed that over the time knowing you, especially with the work on SEL. Like, we got to cross-collaborate a lot. And I really admire the way you attack the issues that this work needs. And the way that you cross-collaborate really is going to be crucial on moving forward, right? When a lot of these initiatives, when we see these goals, I do have a little bit of just, I guess, questions around when we set these goals. I think about SMART goals, right? Okay, what measurables are you adding to your goals?
Sure.
And I see that you.
So I actually didn't put the measurables in there. There are measurables for these.
Yeah.
And in reviewing those measurables, as I was actually putting this together, I revisited them because we set some measurables based on kind of projection and recognizing that there was going to be a lot of experimentation that transpired this year. So not every goal, not every measure regarding each goal was necessarily met, but we had to start somewhere with it. And I am happy to send you, email any of you the full slide as far as what all, the original slide with all the measurables on there.
I just mentioned that because there's so much, right?
Yeah.
And like, we want to make sure you capture your success.
Absolutely.
We also want to capture the struggles.
Yeah.
We want to be able to capture it so when we can, when we develop initiatives, or if you guys have visionaries, our students have ideas, as a body, you know, we would like to get behind that. And in order to do that, I do like to see measurables, targets, you know, ways to progress monitor, especially when it comes to resource allocation, or as I see you guys are attacking grants now. It's really fundamental for myself, I think, as a school committee member, just to make sure that we are just being mindful on those measurables, which I know you are. I know you guys are working very diligently there. The DEI initiatives and partnerships, kind of want to segue into that. Have we looked into, this year, the Special Olympics was at Lynn Tech? I don't know if folks were a part of that event, and it was wonderful. The one at Lynn Tech, the basketball court. Have we explored more, I thought about Special Olympics, but there's other avenues for inclusion, you know, right? When we talk about, I think Ms. Cliff came, I think there's folks came by the last meeting to talk about, you know, what those experiences look like, right? What are we doing to enhance those opportunities, especially for our, you know, students who are really seeking inclusionary experiences? And
well, incidentally, I know Daleen, and that is a conversation that I've recently had with her as far as what that's going to look like next year, because I know that there are a lot of events that she puts on. Incidentally, she has a lot of students that are in her program that I know from years past, even young adults that I know from years past. So thankfully, and that's just part of being in this community. She and I talked about this recently, and that is absolutely happening next year as far as a connection with her program and what LPS's contribution to that is.
I love that. And my last question, I swear, the Latinos for Education, I know we said we have fellows. We do have participants. How many are in the fellowship?
So as far as how many were
Accepted?
how many were accepted, I need to get the final numbers on. I sent out an email this week to them to find out what their final numbers were based on all of the applications that were submitted, because they're supposed to be starting in September. So I can also email you those numbers once I hear back from them.
That'd be nice. And this is our first round of fellows? This is our first round? Oh, that's great. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Appreciate that.
That's Dr. Alvarez.
Member Pena.
Thank you, Mr. Bishop. Thank you for the presentation. And just elaborate on the sense of belonging of the students just spoke earlier. You know, I could truly identify with that, especially the obstacles, you know, and you're speaking to someone who was born here and knew the language. And I still had to face, you know, obstacles and barriers like that. And just to see the inclusivity of the students today and their voices being heard, like, it really touches me. You know how to get our soft spot with the children. I just want to say that. I had a couple questions. Maybe you can elaborate, just talk about what does your faith-based and cultural collaborations look like? Can you just share a little more on that?
Yeah, as far as that really came out of as far as the student consultancy group I had over at Lynn Classical, some of the work that we did was we collected a list of all of the extracurriculars that are offered in each secondary school, and we just did an audit. And that was at Dr. Alvarez's request. And we just took a close look at, okay, what's here? And that one category that the students were identifying, they felt was underrepresentation. And that more has to do with dominant culture in general, in that the conversation really stemmed around the idea that students our society in general gets certain holidays off, certain holidays are just accepted as status quo, and they often feel left out. And just, you know, in performative ways, just posting on our social media and acknowledging a Muslim holiday, for example, really isn't enough for them to feel genuinely included and accepted regarding belongingness factor. So that's a step, but that really needs to be explored deeply regarding normalization and acceptance. And part of that is information. And that's really where the hate crimes prevention campaign comes in. We're calling it the Respect Campaign, because the feedback from the students thus far regarding that campaign has been, we just want to feel like we're understood, and that others, that we're understood and we can understand you, and we can all feel like we're part of this. And it's not that we have to assimilate to what's already a standard. How can that be done? And the students recognize that that takes effort. But that's really what that's about. It's to ensure that there's not only recognition, but education and opportunities for students to genuinely feel understood and valued and honored in their own personal beliefs.
Cultural competence.
Absolutely, cultural competency. Exactly.
And you mentioned grants for student and teacher pathways. Want to touch about that?
Yeah, so that actually isn't through the DEI department. So regarding, that's actually through the multilingual department. There are some pathways and some grants that they've been exploring and implementing. And I've been fortunate to be in that room and to collaborate with them on that. But what's been great about it is my further understanding of just how important it is that those kinds of initiatives aren't a secret that you have to stumble upon. So kind of part of my role in that has been, well, how do we create more awareness around this regarding pathways? If there are fellowship opportunities, if there's grants, if there are grants that have been awarded, how did the teachers know that there's a possibility that they could then participate in this and they can go from here to here in their career? So part of my contribution to that conversation, one, is learning, because historically these are things that have already been applied for and awarded. Part of my contribution has been, well, how do we create more awareness around it so that it's more streamlined and people know, for example, if there's a new employee that's come to LPS and they're a BIPOC person, for example, if they're Latino, that they come in and they know, oh, there's some things here that will ensure that not only do I feel valued when I walk in the door, but also I could climb from here to here, and here's a way that I can get there, and it's specifically designed for me. awareness is a big part of that. So, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, you know, I appreciate the work you do, and I appreciate your transparency, you know, being vulnerable and interacting with all the departments. I really like when you said, don't try to figure this out. It really speaks of your work. I really appreciate it.
that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Pena.
All right.
Thank you, Bobby, for all the work you're doing, and I do see you everywhere, almost as much as all of us, so really, I know that makes a difference, and you're just a light for a lot of us, so really, really appreciate that. Kind of piggybacking off Member Castellanos' question, can you just help me frame for my mind, what specific types of data will we be collecting and analyzing? Like, is it survey data, or is it more quantitative data? Or,
Yeah, the next move is the culture and climate pilot is going to be expanded. So Dr. Shorter is working with my department and with the SEL department. So it's a collaboration between those three departments. Like I said, it was what came out of the initial kind of pilot data.
Bobby, we're just going to take a quick recess.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Apologies, Mr. Bishop, for the interruption. Did you want to finish your thought?
I think where we were.
I think we're good.
Refresh me on the
I was just I was asking about the specific data that you were collecting in terms of questions.
Thank you. Yes. So, yes, there's going to be a part 2 of that climate culture survey. It will be, in talking to Dr. Shorter, the idea is to, well, first of all, with any data collection, when there's a pilot, you have to do a second survey. So my understanding is that there will be a second follow-up survey to the first one, and then from there, and Dr. Amante Jackson and Dr. Title are also assisting us regarding the future of culture climate. And with that will become guidance on what the next surveys should look like throughout the course of next year.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you so much for the presentation.
Pleasure's mine,
And-
everybody. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Thank you, Bobby.
Thank you again as well to all the students who shared on their presentations. It was so wonderful to hear from them. All right, next item is a vote to approve the FY25 budget. Yes, Member Gately.
Before we vote to approve the budget, I would like to recommend a motion that was added to the budget, and the motion will read, add 3 itinerant elementary reading teachers, 2 itinerant elementary ELD teachers, 2 resource inclusion teachers, 2 speech and language pathologist positions in the amount of $730,314 into the fiscal year 25 budget. And this will happen because we're going to reduce the technology computer supply accounts by $730,314. So I made that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Do you want to speak to that at all? Or? Okay. Roll call, please.
Member Castellanos?
This is just on the motion to amend.
That's what I was going to ask.
Yeah. Yep.
Yes.
Member Dugan?
Yes.
Member Gately?
Yes.
Member Pena?
Yes.
Member Reed?
Yes.
Member Satterwhite?
Yes.
Mayor Nicholson?
Yes. So I think we can go about this multiple ways. As you recall, we administration first presented the budget in April, and we've since had the opportunity to discuss questions and thoughts and concerns over multiple meetings. Members have submitted their individual questions in writing, which you all have here, as long as responses. And I know that several members have met with the administration individually. We've gotten a lot of feedback, which we sincerely appreciate, and the budget has evolved throughout this process. I think probably the most efficient way to do it from a Robert's Rules perspective would be to get a motion to approve the budget and have that seconded, and then we can have discussion and go from there. So,
Motion to approve the fiscal year 25 budget.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. Yep, Member Dugan.
Thank you. So I just want to start with thank yous for Mr. McHugh and Dr. Alvarez for finding those 9 positions. I think that's a really good message that we sent. My question, the next question would be, though, what would it take to find the 8 additional positions? Could we do that? What would it take in terms of educating positions?
So there's a number of things, and I think I shared this during the course of this week. You know, we're continuously, there are certain numbers that are always going to be in flux. Some of those are generated just from personnel salary savings themselves when positions are vacant. So we are still hoping that we can release, obviously, those other additional positions from there. Yeah. And we will continue to revisit this, right, as many times as necessary, as we've been doing just to release these first 9. Those 9, I think, HR, Human Resources posted those today already. So, you know, there is a posting, they are funded, as you're going through the budget. If the school committee approves the total budget, then, and we'll continue again. Now we're down, you know, we went from the total now -9, and again, leaving us 8 positions makes it way more feasible to find the funding to do that.
Okay.
So I'm confident that before school starts, we hope to have the.
Okay, so you're thinking July, August, that time frame?
Yes, the difficulty in this is that we are not in an online budgeting system, which we are going to roll into school-based budgeting, which will make it online and very easy for us to, and transparently, right, for us to see what, so what happens is the budget office and Mr. McHugh have to wait, for example, for that last payroll, right, to also see what those expenditures bring, how many employees, not just in the average payroll, but we have personnel that requests to cash out time that they've earned. And so sometimes those numbers, he can only predict, right, so much. And through patterns that have been generated in the past, Mr. McHugh, what was the last payroll? I think you said 13 million last year?
Last year was over $13 million, so it'll be probably like over 14 million, the last payroll that goes out. We normally average about $4 million a week. So, but the last one is just a huge, there's a lot of things that come at the end of the year. But also, under the, as the Chapter 70 numbers flow through, the current version has us up about $400,000 more than what the governor's budget, which we started with, and we used that as their gauge point. So should we receive some additional Chapter 70 funds, we would obviously communicate with the city to see if any of those could be allocated back, which then would be used to start to put these positions back as well. So we're looking at all the different avenues we can to try to put those back. That's why we used the word frozen this year, and I did put $1 in every line for that reason, just to hold that. Our goal is to try to put those back in the budget as a priority.
So the actual, the local aid proposal was $287,160,866, and the proposal right now still stands at $287,568,487. We just have to make sure that that's a reality.
Hopefully it will be.
And we don't know that until the budget is
Correct,
signed, which
but
is later this summer.
could.
Right.
Hopeful.
Yep, Member Gately.
So what I want to clarify is that there will be no teacher cut in this budget? Like,
right,
the budget is the budget. And
correct.
We are looking for 202 teachers, I think. Is that right, April?
I'm going to look at the most updated. I'm just doing that now. I'm going to look for the most updated because we've done some hires.
Okay,
the last
good.
2 weeks, so it could be roughly about there with the new position added in.
All right. Okay, so that's just what I want to clarify, because there is not your intent to actually cut a teacher from in this budget from any place. Then the second thing I would like you to explain is in our frozen section, and I don't mean that like grocery store, but we have like these coaches that are they're frozen. What are you waiting on those? And then the other cut is, we have cut administrators from this budget, have we not?
So the data assessment and accountability assistant director will not be hired at all this coming school year. That will remain that way. The additional position, which was a communication specialist, was not funded and will not be funded. We have gone in a different direction with a communication strategy and providing 2 stipends to internal staff. One in technology to update our website because we no longer have a webmaster. And then the other is actually one of our assistant directors to ensure that we keep up with our social media for all parents and students in communication. In terms of the positions that we released today were all teacher, student facing. The coaching positions are not student facing, they coach teachers. And those were added last year. I think in July we added them, the beginning of the fiscal year. I added them, and it was in response to the academics team that works with the secondary teachers supporting high school teachers. And so one of the things that we are waiting on are 2 things, actually. One is the sum of the salary savings, but reviewing data that was collected, what teachers did they support. But we shared that in advance with LTU back in April, that coaching positions will, first we fill classroom and student-facing positions, and then we will get to coaching positions.
So that's like really just a pause to see.
Yes, and then there is one clinician that I believe was the other position that was there. And that was just a vacancy from someone either retired or it was vacant for a while. I'm not sure who was sitting in the position earlier.
And there was another question about Rosetta Stone. On Rosetta Stone, it was placed, you brought it out to our committee and we had a discussion, and what was it classified as?
It's a resource. It's not a tier 1 curricular material. It's a side-by-side resource for students to learn language. And so I think when we discussed it in one of the meetings, Mr. McHugh said it was 400 and, was it 98 or 448? It's not 448 each year for 3 years. It's 448, and then it's 218 next year and 218 the following year.
And the other thing is, I know that other people on this committee are wondering how that's going to be implemented. What is it going to look like? We haven't really had a presentation of what Rosetta Stone would look like, and I think we need to have that.
Absolutely. So I think what we need to not lose focus on is that it is a student resource. The staff and the parents were included only because the company did the site license by school and not per user, which is typically we end up buying per student and it ends up being more expensive. And so essentially that was a bonus for us. What we're concerned with is academics is now building Patty Hebert, who's our new chief academic officer, will be working with the team to make sure that we disseminate information as early as in the next 2 weeks for elementary students to ensure, and their parents in several languages to ensure that they start using it over the summer. The hours of language acquisition that we know that students need to have is minimally 5 hours a week to be proficient and master a language. So there will be a recommendation to parents for students to start using it 3 to 5 hours this summer, and then consistently throughout the year. And then the secondary will look a little bit different, including the use of language labs within the schools.
And then
So that will be shared with school committee in the fall, but we're rolling that out in the summer for elementary, and making sure that the secondary schools also are aware of how to use it.
Okay, and lastly, to address the class sizes on the schools, concerned the the meeting before, several people came up and they just said they wanted more space. So I would like to know, how are you addressing class space in facilities? What have you done this year to increase or reduce the class sizes?
So there's a number of things in the overall facilities. I think in the overarching, right, everything has a domino effect. Every time when we branched out to Bessem Street and we created space for pre-K, we were trying to alleviate the number of students at the actual elementaries, or where we didn't have the actual physical classroom space. So one of the pre-K initiatives is where we're sitting now in the fall, and this whole first floor will be 8 pre-K classrooms. And then hopefully, as we are able to possibly move the rest of the administration and those that are on the second floor will also be converted into additional classrooms. I'm not sure if it'll be 8 or more, because I think there's some additional spaces upstairs, compared to the first floor in terms of what is usable. And then we have spaces at Lynn Tech that will be moving to. We have the Teams program. There are a number of classrooms there that are being relocated to Pondview in a dedicated facility for our medically fragile students. That'll create over 350 seats for the Lynn Tech students. I know Mr. Gallo's here, and he's typically said on average sometimes between 250 to 350 to 3. I'm not sure what your highest number of waitlisted students has been in the past and that you've had to turn away. But we did add a program, which is biotech research. So in addition to turning away students, adding programs, right, that our students need and are asking for and need in terms of being competitive for the colleges and careers, can't exist if we don't have the spaces. And then in the following year, looking at maybe environmental science or agricultural science or a combination of both, again, would put a number, of additional students in the Lynn Tech building. The community and the students have been asking for those seats for a number of years, and we have been unable to give those seats to them. Additionally, Breed, I think the project will be almost complete when we open school again.
It's scheduled to be completed by September.
There's 5 classrooms that have been added at Breed, and the relocation of the media center to a different part of the building. But, middle schools have to have a media center, so that will take place as well. And then we are working with ISD and the mayor's office to look at what is needed within FECTO, the actual building, so that we can use it and fulfill the enrollment for the STEAM 6 through 12 Academy, hoping that will also balance out our middle and high school populations and the overcrowding that we are currently experiencing. So we're doing what we can within our possibilities of the existing structures that we have, knowing that Pickering won't come online until 26, 27.
Cobbett too.
And Cobbett.
Oh, right, there's 4 or 5 classrooms, I believe.
5 classrooms at
At
Cobbett.
Cobbett.
That were projected to, some of those were projected to be finished for this year, but were delayed, and so those were technically in school year 24, but we'll be using them in 25, and those are adjacent to the cafeteria, like that area behind the cafeteria.
It's the old inspectional services maintenance area where the carpenters used to work.
And did we get those numbers, April?
About 215 vacant.
215?
With the ones added from that were on hold.
Thank you. That's all my questions.
Thank you.
Member Satterwhite, Member Reed.
Thank you, Member Gately. A lot of those questions were some that I had. I do want to kind of go off of the Rosetta Stone that you were speaking about as well. I know that you answered some of those questions. Member Castellanos had some questions about it. Understanding that free programs are not DSA approved, just wondering if there were any other platforms that were explored that were less expensive, despite, I know, probably lower quality programs. Just wondering if there were other ones that we...
So that is what becomes the issue, right? When there isn't any research on what works clearinghouse in terms of research studies that are done by third parties. So many vendors will say, here's our research and this is how this works and it's proven, but they did their own research. And so, we have to really be careful about the data that they present because they present it how they want us to interpret that data. The actual research studies that we look at are all by the Institute of Education Sciences out of the U.S. Department of Ed. And so Rosetta Stone does have research that supports the language acquisition, the months at which a student develops that much more quickly based on the use and the hours that they're on this platform that is self-paced, and it is research-based. And you're absolutely right, Member Satterwhite. We do not use free programs because when we use free programs, we compromise the safety and security of students. All of our vendors and partners have to have a data security agreement. We need to know where the student information is housed, who has the server, whether it's on the information's on our server or their server, and what happens when we part in the relationship for some reason, or if there's a breach of security, how that is handled. And Mr. Greenspan always makes sure that in our contracts or that the vendor has an existing DSA that we are in agreement with, and if they don't, Dr. Shorter has developed one that is to our advantage, and Mr. Howard Greenspan has made sure that that's part of our contract with them.
Got it. Thank you. Next was, I know that like many people believe that the rollout to the Rosetta Stone has been poor, and there's been like mixed information in regards to like access and when the time frame was that was up. Is there going to be any like support available for a length of time that like if anyone has any problems navigating that this is going to be accessible just to be able to use this to its full potential and make it worth it? Sure.
So the student rollout has been slow because anytime we have so what the data center had to do is they had to take all of our students and roster them just like they roster any other platform. And so possibly you might recall last year when they switched to Power Schools and they had to roster it. When I got here in March, they were still not up and running. And they had started that process in the beginning of in the fall. So the data center, having access to it in February has moved quickly to be able to import all the students and roster them. So now they'll start in the summer. And again, our CAO will be managing that process with students and families. But the HR piece, they have been submitting, they just sent an email like 2 or 3 days ago for another round of signups. Staff and parents that want to sign up, that's completely, up to them, right? We want them all to use it, but that doesn't mean that we obviously cannot, we encourage them to use it, but we obviously cannot force them to use it. So there was just another round of signups starting this week.
Perfect. And then just lastly, this is more of a process question. I was wondering if moving forward, if there is a way we can come up with something in regards to a policy or whatnot, if we are spending a certain amount of funds, that it does have to be, that we have like say in the decision of it being approved. Is there something that, just wondering because we weren't aware of like how much we were spending on Rosetta Stone, although I think it is a very good, I looked into it myself and even colleges use this program and have been very successful with it. Just curious, looking at the amount, if moving forward, that is something that I know it's a resource, not part of the curriculum. you
Correct.
said,
It is a
so-
resource. It's not curriculum, but there are also, and maybe Mr. Green's, contractually, I mean, there are other, I want to say that there are contracts that have been given to vendors in the past in excess of $500,000 and $600,000 to individual vendors for a service, not even for a platform for students or a program. I'm not sure what the obligation in terms of sharing that is. And some of them have been paid out of titles, some of them have been paid out of Chapter 70. Like, there are different sources within our budget that have paid for them, and I don't know what the transparency there has been.
I know I review a lot of contracts for the district that come down my way. So some of them have to do with professional development, others are different resources, and they vary in amount. Some of them are quite expensive. I don't think there's an existing policy that caps what the administration can do after the budget is approved.
Member Reed, and then Member Castellanos, and Member Dugan.
I think I asked most of my questions publicly, privately, in writing, in these meetings. So I just want to give my sort of general thoughts. I was at the most joyous occasions of the graduations, and obviously a lot of happy stuff, but I had a couple sad moments at two separate graduations where some friends of mine who were teachers came up to me, and they said they were leaving the district. And right after that, both of them alluded to this budget. This wasn't the reason why, but that was the first thing they brought up. So, our budget is a reflection of our priorities, right? That's what a budget always is. It makes policies, and it says what's important to us. So, while I'm happy we added these positions, I'm still kind of frustrated because I've asked a couple times, both in these meetings and elsewhere, what specific line items that we were looking at to cut, and clearly that there was some flexibility there. And I think if we had the data and the information to do this, we as a committee could have had that transparency to try to make this happen in a smoother, easier way. And again, it's just it feels like we could have had more information, and that's the frustration that's still on my end. And look, I know we've had a lot of leadership changes over the last few years, and some turbulent times. It's not always easy, but I think where we're at right now is not just a circumstance of our environment. I think we've not always made the best decisions, and especially we knew the ESSER cliff was coming. We know tax revenues are bleak. We know there's a possibility that our performance might have not been where it once was, and a lot of this was before my time, a lot was for a lot of our times, but it's just something that I think we need to continue having an open, honest conversation about, not to point fingers and not just complain, but so that we can kind of see why we're at where we're at right now, and so we can make decisions in the present, truly understanding our financial picture. That is before my time, but a lot of my colleagues, they added these administrative positions, and knowing them all, I know if they knew the financial picture that we're in now, I don't mean to speak to any of you guys, but I think that the decision may have been different. And that's why we have to all understand our current financial picture right now, so that we don't make those same missteps. And also just we need to understand that so we can plan going forward, so that we don't find ourselves in this situation year after year after year. So I just really encourage us all to continue to have these open and honest conversations. We're all in this together, and really making sure we understand why we're here, where we're at currently, and where we're going, and to make sure we have a plan to address all these. So I know it wasn't a question, but just wanted to share those thoughts, and if anyone wants to react, of course, they can too. So thank you.
Member Reed, I have a comment regarding that. One of those comments is really, I agree 100% about the investment in priorities, and our L's are just as important as our teachers. Our students are a priority in terms of, we have 77% of our K-2 learners are L's. That is an extraordinarily high number of English language learners in K to 2. It only drops to 44 in grades 6 to 8, and then still a third in high school are English language learners. And so what we know of the data is that the students that are struggling the most are our Ls. So definitely an investment and a priority there. The other thing, as I alluded to in an email that I sent school committee earlier this week, is that we are not on a live budgeting system. And I think that that has caused a lot of turmoil within the district for a number of years. I think if you didn't have online banking today, I think it would make it really difficult to know in a $230 million budget, everything that you are carrying in expenses and what it is that you need to, what are disbursements. Yes.
So I just wanted to follow up. What was the connection with the L's there to my comments? I was just...
In terms of the investment in the priorities and side-by-side resource that we've had questions about this evening.
Agreed.
Member Castellanos.
I'm going to work backwards. So could you just kind of go through, this might be for Kevin and you, Dr. Alvarez, around the need for a live budgeting system, you said. Kevin or Dr. Alvarez, can you elaborate further? And Kevin's been historically our CFO for many years. Why have we not had this mentioned? And why are we now bringing it up now as we are going into the ESSER funds have depleted? We have seen some potential deficits, right? We have money that has changed. Could you just elaborate?
So I will share a little bit about when I first arrived here at LPS. Working off of Excel spreadsheets when you're dealing with those amount of funds is, Kevin obviously is extremely meticulous and an incredible business administrator or CFO, whichever title we want to give him in terms of that. But the majority of districts around the country moved to SAP and ERP systems over 10 or 12 years ago. So I don't know the answer to that. Mr. McHugh, perhaps you have more information, but it's been this way, right, since you arrived at the district, correct?
That's correct. Moving to this system, there will be some difficulties because a lot of the, as a member Reed talked to us about projections, since the funds don't come directly to the school department, they go through the city. In the state of Massachusetts, it runs differently than other parts of the country. So, but the benefit will be is having a school site-based budget is the principal have some discretionary funds and decide how they're going to build their staff around. There'll be some parameters that we have to set because you can't be cutting classroom teachers to be adding other positions, but they'll have some control over their budgets, and the systems will all feed back into a master budget. At the end of the day, will be kind of that live budget that'll be one system. It's just going to be all electronic, and people have access to see it going forward. The system we do have Munis, which we use on the city side, that we track everything through. So all our reports we generate through Munis. My budget just happens to be in Excel because it's kind of been the way that we've always built it this way. Not to say it's great or bad. It works. And it's something that we can build, and we've used other platforms in the past with other superintendents to try to get principals to put information in, but I think going this way, everyone will be working on the same platform and moving through, so all the requests that principals put in every year will be fed back through and could be prioritized that way when we make those decisions as far as what's going to be funded or not funded. So there are benefits, so we are in the process of, we signed on with a company to get this. We'll be starting 1st of July to put it together and take all our information and feed it in. And there will be a training session in the fall for principals and everybody else to roll it out and have it, the next budget cycle, put through that process.
Okay, so the rollout, so one training session. So we're already moving into that direction. So we're already making the investment to move into the system, and that was a follow-up on the rollout. So part of that rollout, what's the additional costs? Is there a cost to
The
the
first year
system that we
cost,
purchase?
the first year cost is $147,000. That includes all the training cost associated with it, because they're going to be with us pretty much from July 1st to December to roll it all out. So there's built-in costs for them to work with us to get this thing rolled out properly. So then after that, if we continue using it, it will be an annual cost of $122,000. And it's based, again, it's on student enrollment, and that seems to be, when you do software systems, they all try to say, what's your student enrollment? They pull that from the state, then they say a cost per student, that's what they're gonna charge you, so.
All right. I have another financial question. This was actually in my packet. So we have discussed potential fiscal deficits caused by our recent rate and status. Please explain or elaborate the district's financial debt management strategy that is going to alleviate potential losses if we do experience a percentage deficit caused by those ranking issues. How will the district prioritize savings, spending, and allocation of funding key areas of our operational budget? And just out of just a comment, you guys gave me, there was 2 sentences in this question. I think this question deserves a lot more elaboration. I didn't really, I did appreciate when you said the SY25 has an expense reduction of approximately 3.2 million, which could support the 220, I guess the school year 26 budget, but I want to see and hear more about the percentages if we are in a debt deficit, if we do rank. Because I know Rosetta Stone's a strategy, right? That's one strategy to assist in our language acquisition, to assist our students, but we still, it depends, right? I guess we don't have a crystal. I think the famous saying, Kevin, is we don't have a crystal ball, but I think we should prepare for those rainy storms.
Well, as we always say, and when I gave you the pie charts, it gives you a good chance to see how our budget's put together. We have 82% people. My budget is 82% salaries. So when you start with that, that leaves 18% non-salary, and out of that, special education, out-of-district tuition costs, transportation costs are, I think, 30% or 50% of the remaining cost. So when you start adding up the cost, there aren't a lot of other funds to really, it makes it difficult to scrutinize and find dollars to reduce. So, we're in that people business, I call it, so it's really difficult when you only have probably, maybe, 12 million, 13 million to look at to make reductions. That's why, you have a copy of the grants that we have. So we utilize grants for a lot of the non-salary costs with curriculum and other things of the nature, because that helps backfill our budget. Otherwise, to have a strategy, you can only cut so much. When you have school supplies, we level funded school supplies, this year, and, we got questions about that. So at some point, you have to look, what can we make reductions in the budget? And the reality is, there's not a lot on the salary side. So then you're looking at, we're in the people business, and then you have to prioritize your staffing to say, and we've always done it, I've been here long enough to say it's always been the classroom first. Teachers, start first, and we start with special ed and compliance issues, so MLE teachers, special ed teachers, that's the core, we start with that, and then of course all grade teachers always get built in. When I first started here, we had to lay off people back in 2008, 2009, my first years here. I came in, and that was some cuts from the state, and we had to make those adjustments down, which is not a pretty time. But we actually had to let staff go because of, we had to make adjustments. And as part of that, people took 2 furlough days to try to balance our budget out. So there were strategies like that. I mean, the unions were very gracious to work with us on that to try to not, eliminate as many reductions as possible. But, the reality of how we have a budget, that's the budget. And it just becomes very difficult. And you've heard me say, we don't have a crystal ball. I can't predict what next year's Chapter 70 money is going to be. What I use as indicators, I go to my association meetings. We get updates from the state as they go forward. I watch and listen to the news to try to see what the trend on how's the state doing with revenues, because that's the big driving spot. Because when the governor puts out their budget in January, they're using those revenue projections to say, okay, this is what we can fund for the state budget, and then Chapter 70 is a piece of that. So those are what we use to kind of stay in touch with what's going on. We put it all together.
And if I could just jump in there as well, because this question, I think it's a great one, and it also implicates some of the relationship between the city and the school department. You know, the school department doesn't issue debt. The city does. Pickering bond is the biggest example of that. It's going to be $60 million. So the city issues that. The city pays the debt service on that. And has extensive plans and preparations about how to be able to do that borrowing, including our tax advisors, our bond advisors, our bond counsel, the CFO and his team, and for the several years prior, the fiscal stability officer. The school department is also in the position where it can't carry reserves. It's not its own entity in that sense. Its budget needs to be spent every year, and everything that isn't spent just is returned to the city. And under net school spending, it actually is not beneficial for that to happen to the city, where to not spend the allocation, because that amount just gets added to whatever the allocation is the next year. And so it's not like it wouldn't make sense, and it's just not something that happens, that they would sort of build up reserves over time to be thinking about those kinds of scenarios. The city does. The city does have reserve accounts, and that's been part of the push in the last few years, is to create more fiscal stability by building up those reserve accounts. And I think it's relevant when you're thinking about the question of debt and the question of savings, to see how those are connected between the city and the school department.
Well, that kind of leads me to going back to just the budget collaboration between the school side and the city side. There needs to be open transparency. There's this, there needs to be that conversation of, I think, the reality of that deficit, right? Like you said, like it goes through a channel through the city of leadership there, and we have to be prepared as a city, right, together from the school side and the city side. So I think that's something that, as we're moving into a live budgeting system, I think maybe we'd be able to be more of a valuable partner to just to prepare for any deficit, right? We're also experts on our budget. We're the ones that go to City Hall. You were just there on Tuesday talking about how we're, where our needs are, where our priorities are. We're fiscal agents of safeguards as an elected official, so our job is to ask critical questions of how things are being spent, allocated, and any questions I have about just maybe discrepancies. Maybe might not be discrepancies. It's an active conversation and dialogue that's necessary. Fiscal decision making is so important right now, especially with that recent, for us, to get in the ranking scenario. That was pretty new, and that was something for us that's pretty alarming to hear that percentage that could be, implicated in our next sequences of budget. And so, and that has to, I guess, informing the city side, which I know, Mayor, you've been working close with, Mr. Bertino and you guys, Kevin, everyone's trying to work together on that, but it does have implications to retention, to morale, to after-school programming. You hear tonight, like the budget and reductions. We've seen a lot this year because obviously we had funds that were depleted. So that's crucial work that we all need to do together. It takes a team to do that. And I just do want to make sure that I do mention the Rosetta Stone piece a little bit more further in depth, because I did have discrepancies. I think the questions were on, I believe on the line. You guys posted my questions, and your team came up with a pretty lengthy rationale, which I think it was helpful, to see this extensive research on the product. But we also entered a contract with no opt-out language, right? And that's, I think, something that Member Satterwhite mentioned something really important, is that we don't have a purview on or any type of lens of, wow, what if we do get into contracts that we might not be able to afford if we're in a deficit? So I think there's concerns, valid concerns, when you talk about positions that get frozen, or we're talking about money, but then we get into contracts, whether it's Rosetta Stone or there's other contracts that we enter that we might not be able to afford. We can project, right? We could try to project, again, and I hate to say Kevin's crystal ball, we could try to project those numbers, but those are very scary fiscal processes that require a collaboration with your school committee, because we don't know what's going on until we start having to keep digging, and then that creates the little bit of a conflict with everyone trying to figure out, peel back the onion of truth and try to make sense of it. And we deal with the public, we deal with staff, with families, and folks have questions and concerns. So, not to go off yet. So that is something that I just want to add out there, just because I did do a pretty extensive outreach attempt on learning about Rosetta Stone. I did a whole, I reached out to Attorney Greenspan to pull the contract. So I asked to see the contract. I reviewed every piece of letter in the contract, and I was concerned because I didn't see any opt-out language. It's, you bought it, we're here for 3 years. And then it went to, okay, well, how do we, it went back to the rollout. So we're really here trying to make it make sense. I'm trying to, I understand the need for it. This was just glaring for me during this budgeting process. I reached out. I'm a very transparent person. I think I speak how I see things. I like to learn. I ask questions. It's never personal. I just think as an elected official on the school committee, I think our job is to ask questions and figure out how to come to a resolution. And when these discrepancies do come forward, I think we do need to have a dialogue. And I think the process of putting our questions ahead of time, I respect why we do it. But I also, I would appreciate if we really start speaking about the rationales that you guys put forward, because you guys actually did put a lot of work into that rationale. And like members on the school committee saw it. But how many people are going to go online, really? I know, how many families, how many citizens are going to really go online and really stop picking apart each one of those rationales? How many people are really going to go on there? And if we can capture it, we're going to ask. We'll probably get those numbers, but is it the whole city? Is it for me, it's just, I don't know, maybe I ranted, but yeah, I'll leave it. I'll.
Thank you. I remember Dugan next.
Thank you. So there's lots of things about this budget that I am excited about. Our priority for special education, the fact that we were able to take a lot of that ESSER money and make it line items, and that's a reflection of a lot of hard work. And my next comment, I don't want to sound like it's demeaning to any of that, because I understand the situation we are in. The part I'm struggling with, and one of our operating protocols is no surprises, so I want to make sure I'm not surprising anybody. But the part I'm struggling with is voting for a budget that is not, funding a full staff. I struggle with it, and I'm struggling with it, to be quite honest. And, I don't know how we fix it, and I appreciate your answers that, those positions will be, it will be a priority to fill those positions. I do get that, but I also am in the field, and those positions, they're going to be filled by other districts. So, yeah, I can already tell you in my district, positions are being filled. So it's a tough one for me, and it's just something I'm struggling with right now to vote yes on a budget that is not fully funding our staff. And again, just in the spirit of no surprises, I just wanted to be transparent about that and make sure everybody knew where I stood. So,
thank you. Emery.
This is to Mr. Mayor, both your point and I think Kevin's point. And sorry if this is a silly question. But is there any way to be more guess like proactive or transparent, whether it's when we have a new online system or something like that, so that we can kind of project ahead and say, start these conversations early and say, hey, like if we're at this level, this is what we'll do. If it's at that level, this is what we'll do. Like, is there any, I'm no financial analyst by trade, but is that common practice at all? Does this exist elsewhere? Is there any way to start these conversations before we come to this? I think it's a technical question, I think, more or
Yeah,
less,
I mean,
but-
from the city's perspective, we have a 5-year forecast in the city budget that, is available. And, I'm here at these meetings in part to be a resource for folks that have questions about what's happening on the city side. And, I'm happy to answer those questions. I think we do, and that's what part of what I'm here for. We not only have these meetings in public, but of course, welcome any of your questions at any moment. And I think there's going to be an element of whatever idiom you want to use, unpredictability, whether it's not having crystal ball, whatever.
No more crystal ball.
Yeah, the government budgeting is a challenge in that sense, because we're really particularly in education, and particularly in a district like Lynn that's so heavily reliant on state aid, at the whim of the legislature. So, I don't want to speak for the administration here, but I'm sure that they'd be happy to sort of share what their thoughts and outlook on what that looks like is. But, it changes, week to week as it goes through the legislative process. There's really no telling what Chapter 70 is going to look like 4 years from now. There's so much that could happen. Nobody thought in 2008, nobody thought in 2006 that 2008 was going to result in catastrophic layoffs. We, I think, absolutely want to be prioritizing the right investments, and I think that means, as Mr. McHugh had mentioned, our classroom teachers, and as a first line of defense, I guess, if catastrophe hits. But I think that is a sort of nature of the education budgeting. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mayor Pena.
I don't want to keep repeating the same question, just for clarification, just to bring it back up. So there will be no teacher cuts in this budget?
That's correct.
Is that correct? And positions that were frozen, when we do find the money, they will be unfrozen and
There's
funded
8
again?
remaining positions, correct.
Okay, sorry, the 8. Yeah.
Right.
Okay, and I appreciate the strategies on trying to find open space, more space for our students, and feel like, I'm very confident with the direction we're heading. I'm very pleased with it. Thank you.
You're welcome. I understand, Member Reed, Member Castellanos, Member Dugan, the frustration and your request for transparency. And I want to make a statement that's very, very clear about the fact that where we are today is a result of at least 36 to 24 months of a lot of information given to this committee. A lot of spending with ESSER, in personnel investments that were reoccurring investments that were not one-time investments. And there, that led to several millions in what we were facing in terms of what we had to make decisions on. And so we gave the best, we have created the best scenario, trying to keep all services in place for students, keeping all teachers and not doing a reduction in force, not going into the negative, in which, there are districts surrounding us that are 1.5, 3, 7, $8 million in the negative, where they're just like, we just don't have the money, don't know how to solve this puzzle. I think the SOA issue that Mr. McHugh identified in terms of we had a larger budget but less SOA funds, I think was a surprise for our district. You know, again, not a determination, but this has been a long time in the making, the issue that we're sitting here today trying to discuss and solve.
I agree.
Member Gailey, Member Castellanos.
Okay,
Yeah.
I just want to clarify. In the past fiscal years, this committee, or the committee that I was on, the mere mention of the word blended learning for some kind of a curriculum was just mentioned. We never voted on it. I don't know what the cost was. I could ask you, Kevin. Another one was Hope and Healing. That was another program that came into our teachers that we never voted on. We never were asked about. I heard tons of complaints about that one from our teachers. I don't know the cost of that. Do you happen to remember the cost of those? And before we go on, the mere mention of these programs, those two I named, really would upset a lot of people, especially the people that are here, but also watching from home. Then I'm going to go into the amount of money that was wasted by past administrators in the K-2 SEI units that weren't even vetted. And when we actually voted for my view, K through 5, it was totally ignored. I don't know what that cost. Thinking maybe in the millions. So I totally agree with Member Castellanos and Member Satterwhite that large budget items should be coming before us with more than this is what we want to do, but a little bit of an explanation and a presentation of what should happen. I think that is something that is causing us to have these questions because it happened. And we don't have the money to just throw away like, oh, this sounds like a great idea, let's do this. This sounds like a great idea. I need it vetted. I need to know if it's going to work. And I think that's what my fellow committee members are thinking. But thank you. I just had that whole conversation just reminded me of these programs and how even though I would complain or I would express how the teachers that contacted me felt about these programs, I was told that it's too late, it was already done, we already discussed it, and I don't want that any longer. I want to have a clear understanding of what's going on, which I do about Rosetta Stone. I see it far more clearly than I did the K-2 SEI units. The other thing is, I think that we should move forward with the vision that Dr. Alvarez has provided us. I have not once ever caught her telling us a mistruth. It's not personal. I just really think that you're right, Mr. Castellano, that we should know what that 450, maybe before it happens. That's why I requested it. I also requested this list of federal grants and state grants that we have, so we can go over all the grants that we have and the amounts that we're getting, because we never got that before. So when we're talking about transparency and we're talking about fiscal responsibility, I think that this budget may not be perfect, but I think that it's a good step forward for the future. And I think we're pretty clear on that. We want to know in advance, what is Rosetta Stone going to do? How is it going to impact our students? And I know we need it. It's far better than that SEI program, in my opinion. Thank you.
Okay, yes.
Just kind of going back to just some of the budget, the security proposed budget. I see we have the SROs at 6. We have 6 SROs, and I'm hearing that we have some folks in the, I think it's a SRO academy, or
Yes, there's 3 currently.
So we're gonna have full staff of.
I believe the chief is counting on that as of this time.
Okay.
That's what he has expressed. The 6 positions have existed there. They've never been reduced, even though we've had vacancies.
Yeah, I think there's also folks in the general academy as well, because it's also depending on the overall staffing of the force.
Well, that's
Yeah.
what, so
Yes.
that's what I was asking.
The chief is meeting with us tomorrow to review that, actually, so we can give you an update on what the final placements look like. But that's what he's projected.
And when you say final placements, like where they would be, what schools they would be at?
Correct.
Okay.
Just to member Gately's point, Kevin, I don't know if you have the blended learning, or Kim, you may know what the amount of that was. I don't remember. I do know that the equity imperative Hope and Healing was $625,000. It was over it was 2 years and a few months.
Can I clarify something with that, though? Was not just Hope and Healing. It was
It was
inclusivity
equity imperative.
No, I know.
Right.
But it was, the inclusivity panels were part of that. The affinity groups were part of that. That was all one contract, was it not?
No, Kim
Yeah,
pulled
was
the
it-
contracts for us. It was
The payment of the
625.
inclusivity panels in terms of mentoring is a separate
It was
piece.
separate, okay.
Is a
Sorry,
separate
my
piece.
mistake.
It's not, it
My
was not
mistake.
included in that. There was an additional cost to that.
I was.
Member Pena.
I
Oh,
was,
sorry.
yeah,
Yeah.
sorry, I was, I
Yeah.
just, I also want to acknowledge, Member Dugan. I think what he said, I think it has been really, tough this go around. I think we've heard from a lot of staff, through emails, phone calls, community events, side conversations, even, it's just been ongoing. I'm talking to staff at midnight, 11 o'clock, I'm reaching out to everybody. I'm trying to get everyone's perspective. I did ask a question about what we're doing for retention. I know that I had a couple questions about retention and how, how does this budget reflect our staff's priorities? And I asked to share some of those details, which you guys did. I would like to kind of have a little bit deeper conversation around retention and how this budget is addressing the needs of our staff.
Sure. And I think we can certainly meet anytime to discuss the HR just completed a plan for recruitment and retention. It is lengthy, a number of pages, and we can certainly go over that.
Member Pena. Okay. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Pardon me. Member Castellanos?
Yes.
Member Dugan?
No.
Member Gately?
Yes.
Member Pena?
Yes.
Member Reed?
Yes.
Member Sadowhite?
Yes.
Mayor Nicholson?
Yes. Seeing no further business. Yep.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.